Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Wings Podcast. This is your host, Milind Agnihotri. On today's show, we will meet Akshay Borse, who grew up as an army kid and joined the Merchant Navy after schooling. He worked on cargo vessels as a deckside junior officer, traveling across international waters for nearly 2 years, and then pivoted to beekeeping as a full time profession by starting his own business in 2019 called Indie Hive Honey. The motivation for this shift is his belief that the earth needs as many healers as possible. Akshay is interested in bike rides, hiking small trails, and camping in secluded areas. Outdoors is where I am more comfortable, he says. Welcome, Akshay, to this episode of Wings Podcast.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me here.
No, pleasure and joy is ours, Akshay. So, why don't we straight away jump into a conversation by this very profound line that you have said in your introduction about the earth needs as many healers as possible. So, is earth going through some kind of pain or suffering for which it needs healers?
Earth, as such, because it wasn't important back in the days when the development as such were happening throughout the world, Earth wasn't important enough to be cared for. But when this concept came into play, where global warming, issues with the planet cycle, the temperatures are changing, the climate is very rough, which I am actually experiencing with beekeeping because a lot of things are totally dependent on climate. Agriculture, as such, is 100% climate dependent. So when we realize these things, that there is a lot of change in everything that is happening with the atmosphere, with the environment, with the earth itself, you do realize that there needs to be people who are gonna take initiatives to change it. People need to use their life for the betterment of earth, and that should be a priority for few people so that the damage that is done can be not erased, but a little bit of repairs can be done as much as possible in one's lifetime, but that will take a lot of time.
But but when you say healer, I mean the notion of a healer by and large in my mind is that of somebody who soothes somebody in illness,
Correct.
or somebody who's in pain or suffering, which could not need not be physical. It could be even
Right.
mental or emotional.
Correct.
Somebody who offers a sense of touch
Correct.
is, in my mind, a healer. But in the context of Mother Earth,
Right.
what are we really saying here?
Okay. So let me elaborate this point why beekeeping is very important. So if the earth needs to survive, there needs to be bees. Now, bees are the pollinators. Pollinators help the trees, plants, and everything reproduce. That is how the seeds are created. That is how more plants and trees and things are gonna grow. For them, pollination is very important so that the quality of the offsprings is very good. Now, beekeeping is very important because it provides nearly 80% of pollination services to the earth. Now, earth is majorly trees, which if die, we won't be able to inhabit it. Earth technically is just the trees that make earth possible to live on.
True, true.
Because they give us oxygen for us to survive. So all the animals, everything can be removed from earth and still have trees, and it still works out. But when the trees are gone, it won't work out much. So bees are, for example, Einstein had said once ki if the bees are dead, we have around 4 years to live because the whole food cycle, plant cycle, everything is going to be destroyed. So me doing beekeeping is actually helping healing the earth's ecosystem. Once the ecosystem is healed, then the rest of the things can fall in place.
Interesting you say this, but when did this idea of beekeeping came to your mind? Because by education you have been through merchant navy, and we'll come to that in a little
Right.
while from now. But how did this whole idea of beekeeping happen to you, and when did this realization happen that this is possibly your way or your contribution to heal Mother Earth, or ensure sustenance of the plant life?
So back in the days, I never had much interaction with bees. As a child, I had around 3 to 4 encounters with bees and one encounter with a beekeeper. So my dad is a veterinary doctor in the armed forces. So there were other veterinary doctors, and one of them used to have bees in his house. So he had a big box, around 3 boxes of beehives, where he introduced us for the first time to beekeeping. I was a child, I was scared of it, but yeah, that was my first primary introduction.
How old were you?
Might be around 10, something like that.
Do you remember that experience?
Yeah, not that vividly, but yeah, I know I met them.
Where was this?
This was in Meerut. We have bungalows over there. So army areas are generally lush greens and big bungalows for staying and all that. So he had few beehives in the backyard. He had a kitchen garden over there. So the beehives were able to sustain over there. So that was a point of time when I first time had an interaction with bee boxes. I didn't understand the whole concept at that point of time, and I was too afraid to go much deeper and go into the box and think about it.
Were you bit anytime there?
No, nothing happened over
Okay.
there. So the point of bees is ki bees only, any insect, any animal in the animal kingdom or the insect kingdom only attacks when threatened. If there is no threat to them, they won't attack you, be it anything. It's only humans that attack.
No, I relate to that, and I'll tell you where, because this is something which happened in my own garden, okay, a couple of years back.
Right.
And we have snakes.
Correct.
This little small garden kind of farm place we have is on the outskirts of Pune city near Khadakwasla, which, as you know, is fairly green, and snakes are very common there. So there was this snake. I mean, I don't understand snakes apart from it being a snake. I can't distinguish a type of snake to another type.
Correct.
But there was this snake which had coiled up in one of the garden chairs.
Okay.
And it was as if resting, I don't know, sleeping. So I had to arrange some chairs because we had some guests coming over and wanted to arrange the chairs in the lawn there. So I said, what do I do? But I said, anyway, all I have to do is pick up the chair where the snake is kind of very easily coiled up and probably sleeping, and take the chair all the way outside of my garden, and over there maybe just throw it out. And I said, give it a try. I just picked it up, and it was a good 150 to 200 feet of distance that I had to cover. But I was very cautious. I kept, I held the chair a little further away from me, that just in case the snake wakes up, I can just throw the chair. So that's my only exit route or risk mitigation strategy, if I can say that. But the snake didn't wake up. And I lifted the chair and walked all along, went outside my garden plot area, and kind of left the chair there and started talking to the snake, saying that I have brought you here. I actually did that.
Okay.
I have brought you here. Now I have some guests coming over, so why don't you go? And come back later if you want. Nothing happened. But lo and behold, the snake woke up. It just crawled down the chair, went on the ground, and went away. Now I had no clue what is all this. Now when I told this to Asha, my wife, she yelled at me. He says, in Marathi, "Tula अक्कल है कि नहीं वगैरह? Do you have any senses? You could have been really bit by the snake." I said no. So we have a friend of ours. I asked. We narrated this whole story, and this person is an expert in snakes. You know what he told us? He says the snakes can't see. And you would know better because you are in the jungles. So this was my first lessons in how dangerous are animals. You just said a little while ago, right? So he said, listen, you intended no, what shall I say, ill will, any harm to the snake. You just wanted to simply lift it and take it out. Now the snake looks at you and sees you from your heat map. They have heat sensors all around the body. And if you are scared or afraid, your heat map is different. But if you are calm and quiet, the heat map is very different. So probably the snake sense that you are calm and quiet. Because it's only when I am afraid that I would want to attack to protect. So there's no intention for me to attack. So I'm just giving a long story here, but does this make sense to you?
See, being a son of a veterinary doctor, I had the opportunity to meet a lot of animals, lot of different species of animals. And every time when you approach them with a sense of confidence and sense of no ill will, as you said it, they don't do anything. I mean, I have met dogs, I mean guard dogs, proper GSD guard dogs, created to kill humans or take them down or whatever need be done
Okay.
of the armed forces.
Correct.
If you have no ill will, they don't do anything. Even if when she is well, she has just got kids and the trainer is still there, and you're like, if she knows and realizes you're not gonna harm their kids, you're not gonna harm her, they can sense it, they won't do anything. But as soon as you're afraid, then you become unpredictable.
Correct.
So the fear factor in you is gonna create an essence that you are not something that can be trusted with your actions. So they will try to prevent you reaching them or stop you doing anything that you want to do.
But does this play out in your bee boxes?
Yeah.
What happens there?
100%. So there's a lot of beekeeping advice done that you should smoke the bees and you should put some smoke in it, make them run away a bit. So basic concept of smoking is that when you smoke it, they feel that there is fire happening. So they go back into collecting whatever honey they have produced and decide if they need to migrate. So migration is they leave the whole hive and shift to next location. That is the risk mitigation program that comes into play. And that is why beekeepers, if around you have seen, they use smoke.
Yes.
So, but what happens is the beekeepers that generally are doing the wild stuff, they smoke it so much that the bees are blind and they die. As a customer, I would be like, don't kill the bees. I'm not calling pest control. I'm calling a beekeeper to save the bees. But what happens is if the beekeeper is not trained well, he will end up smoking them so brutally that they go blind. Once they are blind, they are presented as alive because they don't die instantly. They will die after an hour or two or a day or so. It's as if you are sitting in a smoking room and you realize you have been smoked brutally. It's like your house is on fire. People die in a house on fire because they cannot breathe, they cannot see, and they cannot get out. Similar thing you're doing to bees and assuming that you're not killing them. That is absolutely dumb concept that I think people have. A trained beekeeper would smoke very minimum, as much as required for them to go into the risk mitigation mode, and then you can easily remove them without being stung. You might get a few stings here and there, but that is not as much as you killing the whole colony. When we enter, I generally don't use smoke at all. I'm fine with them. They understand. They might when I'm checking around 100 boxes is around, each box will have around 30 to 40,000 bees.
30 to 40,000 bees in each box.
Yeah.
And 100 such boxes.
Yeah. So I might get stung around 3 or 4 times max to max. Sometimes you
wear all that gear and all that?
Nothing. I just wear a face cap. That is just because if I have a swollen face, people tend to feel weird about it.
But what about covering your arms
Nothing.
and legs?
I'm in half pants and shorts.
Shorts?
Yeah.
Roaming around amongst 30,000 into 100.
Yeah. They don't do anything.
Oh, I see. But there are different types of bees, right? I mean, some who sting like Gandhi Mashi and all we call it here.
Every bee is the same. Nobody is aggressive unless you make them aggressive.
Okay.
Right now there was this incident in one of our forts. People had gone to trek over there. There was a few bee colonies over there, and some random kid might have just thrown a stone at it.
Okay.
And great, you tried to hurt them, they are not going to leave you.
Okay. So tell me where are your bee box? Where do you collect the honey from? I mean, is it only in and around Pune or
no,
different
so
places?
Maharashtra has a very big issue of pesticide use.
Okay.
So Maharashtra as a state has very less honey production that comes into play. We are at the third least honey producing state in the country.
Third from the bottom?
Yeah, third from the bottom.
Okay.
The production is bad because there is no farmlands that are producing honey, because the amount of spray that we spray is crazy, and there is 50% blame on the farmers and 50% blame on the exporters, because exporters have, what I have interacted with farmers and come to know about is, the exporters provide you a checklist which regardless of any issue needs to be carried forward, which will have a number of sprays weekly, daily, 3 daily or something like that would be mentioned, along with the fertilizers that need to come into play. And it would
exporters of what?
Exporters of the food product that has been created.
Okay.
So, and the importing country also have these things.
So there's a absolutely written down protocol, is it?
Yes. There's a full-fledged protocol.
And this is government approved?
I am not too sure about government approval or anything, because export is generally the importing.
It's a private, yeah.
Yeah, it is the importing country that will have these norms.
Sure.
So these things comes into play. For example, in Maharashtra, I had put around 20 bee boxes in Moringa. So Maharashtra.
Where is that?
Apna Pandharpur.
Near Pandharpur.
Yeah.
Solapur district.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Correct.
So I was near around 20 kilometers from Pandharpur. Tonle Bondle is the village name. We had put around 20 bee boxes of Apis mellifera, but the sprays were so crazy that nothing survived. I mean, even if the person where I put up my boxes wasn't spraying anything, the bees have a radius of 3 kilometers. Now 3 kilometer radius is 3,000 acres of land.
Mm-hmm.
So anywhere if the spray happens, the bees are gonna die.
So then where do you get your most of your honey collection
So
from?
maximum honey comes from North India right now.
Which part of North India?
Rajasthan, Punjab, Haryana, Jammu Kashmir. So majorly 90% would be produced in Rajasthan.
Why?
Rajasthan has mustard crop, which is huge in number, and they don't spray on it. Fertilizers are obviously used because that's how they do it. But in winter season, there is not much of pest control that needs to be done. So there is hardly any pest control that is done. So it is a very pest-free crop, which grows in very huge quantities and produces a lot of honey. And then there is honey of kikar. Kikar is acacia. Acacia is babul ka ped.
Correct. Babul ka ped, yeah.
So it grows on the water banks, the river banks basically, and around 1.5 kilometers across the rivers is kept for safety purpose by the government itself, and nobody can cut it down.
Okay.
So these trees create acacia honey. So this again becomes the wild honey that we produce. Then there is cedar honey called jujuba honey coming from jujuba tree. That is again in so there is this part of Rajasthan where it is culturally not allowed to kill a tree or an animal or any insect.
So there are local customs which prevent the local farmers to not to kill.
Yes. So if you see on a larger scale, if there is a tree in a farm, it is first chopped down and removed because it won't let you farm properly. Correct?
Okay.
So that is what the basic concept is. But over here, there are trees inside farms which are not cut off because they are not allowed to, in a cultural way.
So are there any mythologies or folk tales built around it?
Not much, but yeah, there is some sayings that they go around ki we are not allowed. They don't go much into detail because it is their sacred culture or something that they are not telling us about. But what I have realized is ki they cannot cut because their system doesn't allow them. So these areas have huge jujuba trees over there in Rajasthan. These produce trees, shrubs, and different kinds of, because depending on life cycle, their size is different.
Okay.
That is there, and there is a lot of open forest areas also they have.
So which parts of Rajasthan are we talking about?
So we are talking from Bharatpur, the whole of Rajasthan. We are roaming around Rajasthan. We are roaming around 200 kilometers from one side to another in Rajasthan.
So how many boxes would there be, your boxes would be there in Rajasthan right now?
I have around 200 boxes in Rajasthan right now, but not right now in Rajasthan. We have shifted to Punjab right now.
Okay.
So we keep migrating with temperature. So as the temperature keeps going up, we keep going higher. So as we keep going higher, the temperature is lower. For example, we went to Rajasthan because the temperatures were good during the winter season. Now the temperatures have increased, so we shifted to Punjab. Now temperatures are still cold over there. When Punjab temperature increases, we shift to Jammu Kashmir.
And when you say a box, I mean, is there a fixed dimension to the box, or are they variable dimensions?
No, there's a fixed dimension to the box. It is called scientific box by Langstrom. It is Apis mellifera box. These were created back in 1800s. The design and the language of these boxes were created way back there. And that helped us shift into the scientific beekeeping. Earlier, we used to do the nomadic tribal kind of beekeeping where we used to empty out wooden logs.
Correct.
And hope the bees come and stay in it, and then we used to extract from them. And major extraction used to involve killing of all the larvae, destroying the whole honeycomb structure that they have created. But these boxes that now have been created have the possibility of extracting honey without killing the bees or destroying the honeycomb structure or killing the larvae. So what you see outside is if you have seen rock bees are the biggest bees. Mostly you would have seen under the water tanks.
Mm-hmm.
They have huge colonies, but it is very easy to extract just the honey of them also. But when you see a beekeeper extracting and cutting off the whole hive, that is absolutely wrong. Mm-hmm. That is absolutely bad method of beekeeping where you kill the whole hive.
So when a box, let's say, is I don't know whether it's the right word to say, when it is fully productive, which is in terms of full capacity,
right?
How much of honey does it give you? raw honey?
In a year, it will produce around 30 to 35 kgs of honey.
Single box.
Single box.
And is it like when you say in a year, is it in certain times of the year, or is it certain throughout the year?
Yeah, throughout the year we do multiple extractions throughout the
Is
year.
there any season in India where the amount of honey is maximum?
Mustard.
Mushroom?
Mustard.
Mustard.
Yeah, mustard is the maximum amount of honey that you can produce.
Okay.
But that also depends if the season is right. So, for example, this year wasn't great, last year wasn't great. The thing about environmental issues that are coming into play.
Correct.
So, the flowers need a specific temperature for them to create nectar.
Okay.
For example, mustard will require less than 20 degrees centigrades, 20 to 25, or less than 20, slightly not under 15, but 15 to 25 is the optimum temperature at which mustard will create
15 to 20 Celsius.
25 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
Is where mustard will secrete nectar for the bees to collect. Pollen will be there, but nectar might not be there if the temperatures are higher. Right now we are in Punjab, we have mustard fields around us, but the temperature is 30. So there is no secretion of mustard honey over there. Mustard nectar doesn't come out, so mustard honey is not created. Similarly, acacia requires 40 plus, 38 to 43 is the temperature where acacia comes into play, where nectar is secreted. Coriander requires around 28, 29, and jojoba, that cedar honey, is around 35.
So in a year, how many kilos or tons of honey that you collect, and how much of that it gets converted into the actual honey that you and I consume?
Actual honey is the same as what I am extracting. So we are not dehydrating, processing, or doing anything to it.
Okay.
So the honey that we are extracting is directly packaged. Sometime if moisture reduction is required, we have a vacuum chamber in which we do it. The vacuum chamber helps us to bring down the boiling point to around 35 degrees centigrades. Honey as such is at around 38 to 40 degrees centigrades in a box, because that is the beehive temperature. It is similar to the body temperature, that is at 37 degrees Celsius. But due to their quantity and size, it can go around 40.
So what you're saying is the raw honey that you collect, and how many tons would that be in a year?
That is around
Kilos?
10 tons.
So
but it is a very variable thing because seasons decide everything.
Sure. So let's say about 8 to 10 tons of raw honey that you collect, and because it is a very natural process in your case, most of it is available for human consumption. Is this how the Indie Hive honey business that you have created, the brand that you have created? Right. So why don't we go there and see, what is the idea behind that brand name? And
so Indie Hive is for India, and hive is basically a bee structure is called a hive.
Sure.
So both the words combined created Indie Hive.
But it's a consumer product, right? You're in a consumer product business.
Yeah.
So you have to compete against established big brands who are already into honey selling in India.
So there is a simple thing that I would like to point out. If you know nature, and if you have stayed in nature, you would realize that nature cannot replicate. There is no copy-paste mechanism available in nature. Anything, fruits, vegetables, consider humans also, there are hardly any twins, but even twins have variations.
Sure.
It is not a 100% replica copy.
True.
My dad is also a twin, they are identical, but they are still not 100% same.
Okay.
So the point being, if nature cannot replicate, and then you buy natural products from market and it is just a replica, for example, if you see any brand of honey out there in the market, it looks exactly the same, feels exactly the same, tastes exactly the same, texture is exactly the same, moisture content is exactly the same. I mean, it is just a replica of each other. All the bottles. There is no variation. It is technically not possible. If you say it is natural, then it cannot be a replica. It has to be different.
So let's say a big brand X,
right,
whose honey I have, let's say, eaten 6 months back.
Done.
And I eat the honey today.
Correct.
In normal circumstances, those two honey, in your view, should taste different.
Yes.
Whereas my experience as a consumer of honey, and I eat honey because I like honey in a lot of things that I eat, I have the same taste of honey of that same brand X, whether I eat it now or whether I ate it 2 years back.
Correct.
Or maybe I eat it 1 year later. So is this not natural?
It is 100% not natural, because if you see at replicas, you see a car factory is the same.
Correct.
But it's also, humans can replicate. humans have that brain power to create replicas.
Oh, you mean to say the production process of car which humans have created,
Yeah.
you can create replication.
Yes.
But
Similarly,
in the case of honey, you're talking of bees.
Yeah, but humans are still replicating. Now, the honey that you have consumed, because human is involved in it extensively.
Sure.
So they have created a procedure in which it is replicated. They have their parameters in which the density is same, the color is same, the text. How can you create it? It's technically not possible for nature to replicate. If the sources of the flower are gonna be different, then how can it be the same? Bees just dehydrate whatever nectar they are getting from outside. The color comes from the pollen. Slight color is coming from nectar also. But they are just dehydrating it. They are not flavoring it. They are not doing anything. The flavors come into play because of the source. So mustard honey is mustard honey because it is coming from mustard. It is going to taste different from acacia honey that is coming from acacia tree. The color is also going to be different. The age, when I give you honey, if I give you honey last year, it is going to change its color because it is still alive. The chemical reactions, natural chemical reaction are still going on. But when you overheat a honey, you technically kill the honey and then you provide natural sugar to people and say the benefits are going to come into play.
Which is this big, large
Yes.
production houses which
Yes.
have brands around it. Excellent, excellent. So Akshay, this subject we can go on. It is so fascinating and so interesting. But let's kind of go back a little bit because
Sure.
you have been you have spent time in merchant navy on cargo ships.
Right.
Now, walk us through what are the various places that you've gone through and how did that journey happen to you?
So I was in the sailing across Pacific Ocean majorly. So we were doing back and forth Pacific Ocean.
Which countries?
So this was Korea, China, South America, North America.
And which parts of South America?
Ecuador-
Which ports did you touch?
So Ecuador, Houston, Pascagoula, then Korean ports were there. Dasan was a Korean port. Then I don't remember the Chinese port. It was a bit complicated.
And what cargo were your
So
vessels
we
carrying?
were having oil chemical tankers. So we were shifting mostly petrochemical products only.
Mhm.
Aviation fuel, normal raw 98, 95, then petrochemicals were there. So these were the basic things that we were transporting, but majorly because I was doing across Pacific, so our sailing time was around 1 month each. So 6 trips on the majorly same port, coming back and forth, so it goes fast.
So as a deck side junior officer
Yes.
on a cargo ship carrying petroleum
Right.
or fuel or crude oil, what was your role? What were you? What was your,
We
what
were
you-
taking care. So as
What
a-
was your role?
As a junior officer, we need to take care. Basically, we are assisting all the officers that are there.
Mhm.
We a junior officer, any junior ranking position is basically assisting all the higher rank because they have a very specific job.
Sure.
So that job is then assisted by, we are helping them out doing that job.
So what was that job?
So when if I was with the chief officer, I was taking care of the loading, creating loading charts,
Mm-hmm.
then setting up the procedure in which the tanks should be loaded, because ship being very big, if we don't put the right amount of liquid in the right tank, we can risk breaking it apart.
Mm.
So we need to plan around like 10 kilos goes in front, so 10 kilos goes in back. So it is like a proper loading. I'm saying kilos, but the quantities are huge.
Tens of thousands of tons. Yeah.
So it needs to be done properly. So creating that chart, so I would assist him in doing that. Then
So how was life on the sea? I mean,
for
what was a
me,
typical day like? For
it
you there?
was full of work and looking at sea. There was nothing else to look. There were open seas all around. Sometimes you see some sea life. That's about it. It was just an open sea that you looked at and did your daily jobs. And when we were sailing, we used to navigate. Navigation is you set up charts and then you follow a chart and then you make sure that you are running on that course. Because you have no markers in the seas to cross-reference, so you reference with the GPS that is available.
But isn't that, as a sailor
Mhm.
on international waters across an ocean as large as Pacific, where you
Right.
said for a month you are sailing without seeing probably land,
Right.
and I mean that life, at least for me, I have only seen movies and read books, but isn't that life exciting enough for one wanting to stay there? What made you just
See-
give up that life in just about 2 years?
Honestly, if you talk to seafarers, the excitement is there, but not that much. Major excitement would be there with the people who are working on bulk carriers. Bulk carriers have a slow discharge rate, loading and unloading rate, so they have enough time to roam around the city, check out the ports, and enjoy that. But on oil chemical tankers, we are in liquid form, so our pumping rates are very high.
Okay.
So the loading happens.
So you are most of the time on water.
On the ship. Yeah, we hardly get time to get off the ships.
And what I mean, I believe seasickness. Does it all happen? Did it happen, or you got?
I didn't get seasickness. So I never got seasickness, but there are people who get seasick, and sometimes when we are at a very bad sea, like there was a point where we were trying to run out of a tornado or cyclone or whatever you want to call it, different names, different countries.
Sure.
So technically a ship goes at around 30, my ship was to go around 13 to 14 knots was my speed forward, but due to the cyclone being created behind us, my speed was -2. So we were trying to run out, but we were being pulled back. So our ship was rolling, pitching, we were doing crazy amounts of tilts and all that. Our engines were running on full RPMs. Generally, we have a cap of 120 RPM or something like that, where engines are smooth and running. But then we have excess of around 40-50 RPMs that we use when we need to outrun pirates, outrun weather.
Oh, you've encountered pirates?
No. Okay. But we have that options available. So, but these options leads to a lot of engine wear and tear.
So you've been a seafarer. You are now a beekeeper, which seems to be your passion and calling, is what I find, right. What I hear from you. Anything that is common to being a seafarer and a beekeeper, though as a profession they are very different?
Seclusion. Seclusion is a lot, because even in beekeeping we are at secluded places that are not inhabited by a lot of people. We are outside in farms, deep inside farms. Similar to sailing also, you hardly had your crew to talk to, but that also hardly happens because your workload is so much that you cannot interact with many people at some point of time. 2-3 people you are interacting, the similar things happen in beekeeping also. You are out there in middle of nowhere, you have your team, that's about it.
Does that then explain your love for camping in secluded places?
Yeah, because I'm not a people person, not that much. I mean, I can enjoy company, but that is a limited period window where I'm okay with it, and then I need to.
So what's the joy in being a recluse?
You are more comfortable. You don't need to pretend to love people. I mean, I am more with. I have stayed with animals most of my life, and I prefer, like, on our farms also there would be random cows chilling with us, so you can just chill with them.
So what about humans that puts you off then?
I mean, it's just that they don't care much. Humans don't care about anything around them. They just keep on destroying and extracting whatever they need. That's the whole idea.
That's a unidirectional view, isn't it?
So it is a unidirectional view because 90% of the human population is unidirectional in this direction. The remaining 10% is hardly there, and we need to find them, but it's very hard to find these people.
Interesting you say this, because you seem to be having some delusion with human behavior then.
I don't think so. I have a delusion. I mean,
or disappointment with human behavior. That's what it sounds like.
Let's put this in this way. Back in the days where the necessities were different and the growth rate was supposed to be different, humans looked at that way without caring for the repercussions that will come into play. The repercussions are now being taken care of by the current generation, which is hardly also involved in it. Till the time we are not at the deathbed kind of a situation, humans are not going to wake up.
So every generation is kicking the can down the road.
Yeah, it's just going away. It's like
so everybody knows what's happening. So whether it is, let's say, climate change or whatever, or because you said you said so beautifully about how availability of honey directly depends upon the climate. Correct. That the tree and the flower experiences, whether it is jujube or acacia or mustard, whatever you talked about. Now, everybody knows what's wrong with the climate. Right. Everybody knows what can be done about it.
Right.
There's this COP26 and all that thing that keeps happening. What, in your view, as a beekeeper who so depends on a healthy, sustainable, climate or nature, in your view, what should humans be doing to ensure sustainability of this earth, which has been around for almost 5 billion plus years?
So the point that would come into play is that everybody needs to do their part. Whatever is, just don't pollute as much as possible. Don't create any kind of pollution, be it air pollution, soil pollution. Soil pollution.
But
is
human
you-
activity will have that as a consequence in any case, right?
So you can go see, now we have an option to go to sustainable alternatives that are available and readily available. It's not like a hypothetical situation where you had created something that does not exist and you're asking people to use that which does not even exist. Right now there is biodegradable material that is available for everything. Even in fuel we have bioethanol, and all that alternatives are available but not being used.
Of course, I mean there are a lot of countries and a lot of economies who are trying to figure that out. I mean that's a much larger problem, which is probably a podcast topic in itself.
So,
but
personal
what
level-
about human level? I mean, I read somewhere that there is this whole human attitude
Right.
of take, make, and waste,
Yeah.
which is extract from Mother Earth.
Correct.
Use
whatever you
make
can.
Make it into some functional or
Create a
of
lot
utility
of-
value,
Yeah.
and create a waste.
Correct.
Is that what is feeding this cycle?
Yeah, so on the planet Earth, if you see, the only species that create waste is human being.
Well, it's a debatable topic. we can talk about it, but as we are coming close to this conversation, Akshay, which has been an amazing 30-35 minutes of fairly intense and passionate thoughts that you are putting out here today. But when Akshay is not a beekeeper, or of course he's no more a seafarer right now, but I'm sure you are a farer in that sense.
Right.
You're a traveler.
Right.
So when Akshay is not a traveler or a beekeeper, who is he?
Like 90% of my time is that, but when I'm not, I like to watch a lot of anime. Anime is something, a Japanese orientation of cartoon that we call. I enjoy that. I like to watch a lot of movies and serials. And this happens when I'm free, when I'm at farm or something, when we have only the job that is only in the sunlight hours. As soon as the sun sets, we are as free as birds.
So then do you binge on Netflix?
Not Netflix. Netflix is not my cup of tea.
Either way, some streaming channel. So
channel,
you do binge at times.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So if there is something that you would want to say to Akshay Borse today, right now,
Okay.
what would you tell him?
Relax a bit.
Oh, okay.
So things are pretty heated up right now. We have a lot of things on the plate. We are doing a lot of things, and end game is where we create something that is going to help the insect world or the bee world. One of those are going to be helped out. But that's a long-term goal. But work is starting now, so let's see.
So your own venture,
Right.
which is Indie Hive Honey,
Right.
Which of course one goal is the commercial goal.
Correct.
That it has to be a profitable money-making venture.
I cannot beg people, so I need to create profit to do my stuff.
Sure. And of course, you have to create livelihoods for all your people who work for you in rural parts of Rajasthan, Punjab, Jammu Kashmir, wherever you do your boxes. But apart from the commercial goals and the motives that you have for Indie Hive Honey, what is your larger vision for this venture that you have created?
So there is a larger vision. I'm working with a few people who have another brand called Moonshine. Our end goal is to create a research center for bees, because right now there is no research happening in India. There is absolutely zero research that is happening. There needs to be scientists doing something, because there is a certain level where I will stop, because I'm just a beekeeper. I have no idea how the genetics work, how the genome works, and how to purify that, recreate that, or get new genome into play and do something about it. I have no idea about that. So we will and we should have people doing this research, and I wish that we reach a stage where we have enough money to pull this off. I don't think I'll work as an NGO, because I don't know if I can, but the point is, every beekeeper in the country who has enough money will come together at some point of time. Other countries have these institutes that are running for a while and they are doing good stuff, but that stops over there, because importing living plants, insects or anything in a country is a very tough job. You cannot do it directly.
The countries don't allow it.
It's not allowed. So in itself, India needs to create its own it's basically not polluting each other's environment in the biodiversity part also. Aggressive species and all that issues comes into play. So whatever we have, we need to create over here and use it. Atmanirbhar Bharat has to come into play in this also.
Undoubtedly. And what a beautiful note. We are ending this conversation where your vision for your venture is not to be commercially profitable and successful, which it is and which will be, and I wish you all good luck for that. But the larger goal of creating serious, meaningful research around bees and honey, where some meaningful work happens there. So, I wish you good luck, for all your future, dreams and vision. And thank you so much, Akshay, for coming on this podcast and being with us. So before we leave, I just want to hear from you. How has this conversation been for you?
It was amazing. It was quite detailed. I never do talk about myself this much. And yeah, the part about research I haven't told many people. It's just a close knit group of people, but I was comfortable enough to talk about it over here. It's a very huge goal which we didn't want to disclose because it's very tough to pull it off. But yeah, let's see.
So we can say today at least the recluse has spoken.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you very much,
Welcome.
Akshay. Wish you good luck.
Thank you.
Take care.
Sure.
And stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you for your time today, my dear listeners. This is your host, Milind Agnihotri, signing off. Goodbye. Take care and stay safe. This podcast is for general information purposes only and should not be considered as a piece of any professional advice. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of its guest. Creators of this podcast expressly disclaim any and all liability or responsibility for any direct or indirect, consequential or other damages arising out of any individual's use of this podcast. For feedback and suggestions, please write to wingsindia75@gmail.com. Thank you.